Today we're going to talk about the headlight switch that we include in our kits. There are some common problems that we've experienced in mounting the shaft, the knob, the retention ring. So we're going to talk about how to get around that problem. Normal operation of this switch, and I'm going to show you right here, is to take the switch, put a retention nut, screw it into your dash or mount it in your dash. There's a anti-rotational tang, stops the switch from moving. You put your retention nut on inside the dash. The switch is locked in place. Take your shaft, put it in, and you should hear an audible click. Switch is fine. Operates park lights, headlights, no problem. Problem comes about is when you go to put that shaft in, like in one of these switches, and that bottoms out. You get no click. What do we do about that? At the end of the shaft there's a pintle, and it has a groove in it. That groove locks into a plate that's at the base of the steering of the headlight switch that is controlled by this little spring right here, the spring button. If there's a misalignment when you put that shaft in, then there's a possibility you won't get that audible click right away. Three situations can happen. The body itself is not at 90 degrees to the metal bracket right here. Number two, when you put the retention nut in, it can change the angle that the shaft goes in. And number three, the actual rheostat here can have an effect on the angle that the shaft goes in. So basically it has to do with the angle and the locking of the pintle. So how do we get around that? Take your shaft and maneuver it, wiggle it around like that. You hear the click? Boom. There you go. It just happens to be a manufacturing tolerance that you have to play with it a little bit. What we've done, all we've done is move that pintle so that it grabbed onto the locking mechanism. So that's one potential. The second is when we put the retention nut in, we'll find that that severely limits the amount of wiggle I can have. But you still have some. Again, try it. You see, you heard the click, but it came back out again. It wasn't locked. Try it again. You hear that click? It's locked. Okay? The third situation that I can have is right here with the rheostat. That affects the alignment, and one of the other things I can do is twist this a little, and that helps me change the alignment as well. So again, there are three things that can affect the alignment. Number one is the angle of this case, which can affect the angle that the shaft goes in. Two is the restriction that happens when you put the retention nut on, and three is that the rheostat collar can have an effect on the alignment. So all of those three, if you play with this, okay? The thing that you do not want to do when you have this situation, and I'll pick one switch here that we know had a little bit of an issue. The thing you don't want to do is you're pushing it all the way in, you don't get a click, and you think the shaft is not in far enough. Do not take a hammer or anything else and put a lot of force on this. What's going to happen is you're going to damage the switch, and it can be damaged to the point where you actually break the back of the switch. So you have to work it. Came out, it wasn't locked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it a little bit. Just by turning it, you can see that it locked up. I can do the same thing again with the retention nut on. Let's just make sure it works good. Locked up. So understand that those three ways of playing with the shaft alignment in the switch are going to solve most of the problems that you have in the alignment and how to mount this switch. Do the little tips about moving it. All you got to do is wiggle it a little bit, and then it comes out. So that's it on how to work with the headlight switch. It's been a problem that we've seen people or we heard people call us about. This is how to solve the problem. Again, if you do all these things and it's still an issue, then we have another issue. There may be something inside here that's just not aligning correctly when they put it together. So, but I'm sure you're going to find in most cases if you use these steps, you'll get it to lock up fine.